Construction of pattern for Kameez. In the previous session, we identified the standard measurements required for making a kameez. In this session, we will see how to construct the pattern for a kameez using a triangular scale based on drafting instructions. At the end of the session, you will be able to construct pattern for kameez using a triangular scale. Let's first familiarize with the tools and materials required for doing this exercise. They are notebook, pencil, triangular scale, measuring tape, pattern and drafting instructions, fraction table, and scale. Now let's see how to draft the kameez pattern in notebook using a triangular scale. In the previous session, we measured the different body measurements required for a kameez. Note the measurements taken in your notebook. Here, the full length is 40 inches, waist length or front length is 17.5 inches, shoulder width is 14.5 inches, chest circumference is 35 inches, waist circumference is 31 inches, and bottom width is 46 inches. From the drafting instructions, see if any fractions of the body measurements need to be taken. You can easily identify the divisions by checking the fractions written near the body measurement symbols. In this case, you need to find half of the front length and shoulder width, quarter of the waist circumference, bottom width and chest circumference, and 1/12 of chest circumference. For that, we will use a fraction table. Here, our waist length is 17.5 inches. Half of it is 8 3/4 inches. Shoulder width is 14.5 inches. Half of it is 7.25 inches. Here, the chest circumference is 35 inches, so quarter of it is 8 3/4 inches and 1/12 of it is 3 inches. Quarter of the bottom width, which is 46 inches, is 11.5 inches. Finally, quarter of the waist circumference, which is 31 inches, is 7 3/4 inches. After finding out all the fractions as per the drafting instructions, we will now copy all the drafting instructions in our notebook. But instead of fractions of body measurements, we will substitute the values that we have found using our fraction table. Now we need to find the sum of these values. We've already learned how to add and subtract numbers using a measuring tape. We will use the same technique here. The next step is to draw the pattern for a kameez in our notebook. We will use the triangular scale to draw the pattern in our notebook. Here, we are using a 1:6 scale to draw the pattern. As per our drafting instructions, first we will draw the line 0, 1, which we have calculated as 42 inches. Then we can mark the next line 0, 2, which is 6 3/4 inches. Follow the drafting instructions to construct the remaining lines. Thus, we have constructed the pattern for a kameez in our notebook using a triangular scale. In this session, we have learned how to construct the pattern for a kameez using a triangular scale. Before we conclude, let's take a look at the key points. Step 1. Refer to the drafting instructions to see which body measurements need to be taken. Note the measurements in your notebook. Step 2. Check the pattern instructions to see if you need to find out any fractions of the body measurements. If so, draw a table with all the fractions to be found out. Step 3. Use the fraction table to find out the fractions of the body measurements. Step 4. Copy the drafting instructions in your notebook by substituting the values found out from the fraction table instead of fractions of body measurements. Step 5. Add or subtract the numbers if any. Step 6. Construct pattern in your notebook with the help of a triangular scale. With that, we've come to the end of this session.